So today's talk is focusing on love. And before we go into what people would typically experience or expect, a conversation about Valentine's Day, to be focused on love, like romantic love, that's not really how we roll here. We like to do things at the deepest level possible. So before we can go into, just like a romantic version of love, we have to understand love. It really, for us to understand love, forget the romantic notion for a minute, because that's the last priority. The first priority is consciousness. I want to be the love God created me to be. Not, I want God to tell me where I can find love perfectly in a person who's perfect, to match my perfection. I just don't even bother. That's not healthy, and it's not going to work. We have to recognize, and that's why people are in so much pain romantically. God does not will us to be in pain or struggle romantically or on any other level. But why is it a constant struggle? Why is divorce rate over 50%? Why is romance a struggle? Because people are looking for love in all the wrong places. How can you get something, find something, if you have no resonance within yourself? If you found true love, if you don't know what true love is, you wouldn't know it, because there's no familiar energy of it. You don't see it. You can put a pile of gold bars on one side of a room, and on the other side pots and pans, and a 1-year-old will crawl over to the pots and pans. It doesn't recognize the other as having any value. Because if you want to know what's really of value, whether it's spiritual or any other level, there's got to be something in ourselves that would recognize it if we found it. So continuing, it sounds like a drag. People are like, no, I don't want one of those talks. I want one of those where I can find quick and easy. This wouldn't be the place for that. This is the real and forever. These kinds of talks. Real and forever. God is all that really exists. And it's only that part in us that really exists. And that part is complete within itself. So it never looks for some other part of itself, because God is one. It's not pieces. The only reason we go looking romantically for pieces to fill us is because we perceive ourselves as already being fractured, fragmented. Something that's in pieces. Change your opinion about yourself, and all of a sudden you start to feel more complete. Then comes the question, well, then why would you bother looking for anybody else? You wouldn't. But you can choose to. And that's what's nice. I feel kind of together, but I'm kind of looking that I'd like to share that with you. See, some people want to make it like if you really become that healthy, and that's why people become supposedly, abstinent and celibate and all that, they become sworn to a certain path, and they think that goes hand in hand with no relationships. That's only them, because they don't know how else to do it. There's no teacher telling them. And the next step is that you can experience wonderful love, romance, and so forth, even the intimate side of things, when you have your act together a bit more. They make it extreme because that's where their mindset is at. They don't know, because there's not enough teachers telling people you can have your cake and eat it. You can get your act together, become healthy and responsible, and still have healthy, responsible relationships. Even if it's just an intimate friendship. And not a full-on life mate marriage or whatever you want to call it. People can have this. We can have this. But there's no teachers talking about it because, for the most part, they don't know how to do it. Step 1, God. Start having a relationship with God. There's only 3 relationships you can have. It's with God, yourself, and others. And it always has to happen in that order. Not perfectly one with God, perfectly one with yourself before others. They're kind of at the same time, but the priorities are clear. You can still have one with us. You can be in the middle of a relationship right now. Still, your priority would be God first, myself second, and then you. People don't want to get Hallmark cards that say that. You come last, but I still love you. That's not where people are at. It's done if you tell them that. But you should be flattered. When I was in high school, I would ask people that were interested in me. I'd ask them, well, what are your priorities? I would have been just a bummer for anybody to ever meet romantically. I'm sure that's the case. But I would ask, so what are your priorities? And I swear to you, People would say, if they're interested romantically, well, you're my focus, and I would be done already. The first time I met somebody that said God, I'm like, ooh, I like you, and ended up seeing this person for a while, like 10 years. I married her, but and that is why we could remain even spiritual friends to this day, because this woman had God as a first priority. Does that make sense? Do you see how not everybody in the world would think that way? Don't be intimidated just because you think, well, I have to choose between, because I have a partner or a potential partner that's not interested in that. I don't want to turn them on with all my healthiness, turn them off rather, with all my healthiness. I know it seems like an inconvenience, but too bad. Because your reality is going to be determined by your choices. And if you choose God first, don't think, oh, well, I guess, fine, God first. I guess I'm going to have one of those celibate, serious kinds of relationships. No. If you understand how to bring God into everything you are, then it all starts to manifest. Passion. Because even my passion for God and my passion for myself should become also my passion for you. Just like when I'm talking to a group, I'm having a relationship with you. This is an experience. We're in a relationship. Not everything's partner type. They're all relations. Parenting is a relationship. Work has relationships. But they really can be and should be all passionate. Most people don't have enough in here for it to come out. They don't feel like they have enough for others. I don't have enough energy to hug other people. I can't smile at work anymore because they're spent. Are they bad or wrong for that? Not at all. It starts to bridge into over to what you could say is bad or inappropriate if you're so empty that you start to vent on other people your emptiness. That becomes abusive. But for the most part, there's nothing wrong with people that don't know how to bring more. All it means is they're empty. That's all. You go to get water out of a cup and you've been drinking all day and it's empty. Well, is that evil cup? No. Just nothing left. And that's how people are. There's just nothing left. And I wouldn't say that should be the person you go, I found an empty person. That would be a perfect relationship. No, instead, I would shift gears into how can I help? Now they're a client or a friend, perhaps. But I wouldn't think of it as romantic. I have some odd experiences in meeting people. And one time I met somebody, and it was one of the very few times in my life where I felt like a nice resonance. And so I thought, especially because this time in my life, I had gotten divorced, and it would have been a few years, maybe 5 or so years. So I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna try this out. Meet somebody, and finally met somebody. I thought, this is interesting. Enough of an energy, a connection. I'm going to see how this works out. Met the person. We're talking, and it seems like it's all just flowing really well. So I said, so what's been going on in your life? And they said, well, I'm in the middle of a divorce. In that second, my mind immediately, this is me, it immediately switches. Done with the interest and how can I help? And most people don't know how to do that. They can't afford it. I want something. It's like a little tyrant. I want it. They've got to have that relationship. But I'm saying that if I approach you ignoring that there was an issue, I'm going to be part of the problem. So it's actually healthy for me too to set aside the me and say, how can I help? And then we think, I've had people say this to me. Fine, I can keep doing that, Michael. And then I end up with nothing. I didn't feel like nothing. I walked away from that. There might have been an ounce going, isn't that funny? That would have been kind of cool. But it doesn't matter because 99% is saying, I'm very grateful that I did what I needed to do, rather than what I would like to have wanted. It's just so rewarding. But Spirit doesn't say, now you have to choose spiritual path or human life, human happiness. It's not like that. When we do the right thing, when we take care of ourselves spiritually and others spiritually, we're rewarded. My life got to a place where I swear I have had probably better friendships than anybody I've ever met. Honestly. Intimate friendships, even intimate ones. I'm happy to say, I believe that my friendships have been better than any friendships I've ever known or seen. And they're human. They're still human things that happen. But I really can still, instead of going, well, if they end, you're supposed to throw it all out. I refuse. If something ever goes well for you, please don't ever toss it. Breathe it in. Well, I was in this 5-year relationship and I thought it was great, but one thing went wrong, so I tossed it, so it was all bad. No. Instead, say to yourself, what did I learn? What did I gain from that? What was at all positive? And I don't care what it is. It could be intimate, like a kissing. I like the way they kissed. It could be, we had great conversations. Whatever it is, take that piece, own it as part of yourself forever. It's not, oh, they used to be such a great conversationalist and now I've lost that. Well, I guess the kisser's gone, so I'll never have one of those again. That's how humans think. It's always what I lost. Why didn't you gain it? Well, they were just a great kisser. Well, weren't you there? Well, yes, but they had the why don't you memorize their technique? I mean, come on. Become. So this whole world is about being and doing. And humans keep doing things. They keep doing to compensate. They have an emptiness and then they do to compensate. The more you do efforting things, the more it confirms your emptiness. I've been looking for somebody that would be a great partner. How many of you dated? 358. Well, that's doing. You did 358 people in more ways than one. You're doing people. You know, you're doing people. Why? How come you needed more than one? Or 2 or 3. Why did you need so many? And it's not, well, none of them are, what do you mean? I mean, you have to set up, you need to set up, you have that many you went through, you need to set up your own website, dating website. Put them all on it, you know, a former Michael date website, you know, or whomever you happen to be. It's just not necessary. You're showing too much doing. Where's the being? And the being does not mean all blissed out and no connection with people. It means bringing something different. God is a being of consciousness. There's no doing for God. God created the world in the first day and the second day God. They use that terminology for human minds. God didn't have to think to do anything ever. God is, and what God is, it shares and extends and becomes more of it. That's all it ever does. God only expands in consciousness. There's never an efforting. There's never hands chiseling man out of rock or whatever. There's no efforting. To be so clear about what God is, that's what makes it effortless for God to do anything. It's the doing without doing. And we're made in God's image. So we're capable of everything and anything without effort. But in the human condition, we understand there's going to be some amount of doing. So there's being and there's doing. But those of us who are growing spiritually, you're not supposed to just choose how to go from doing things to only being, because that's extreme. If you're going to only be, then you would be in spirit and not in a human form. So then in a human form, there's nothing but doing. No, in between there's mastery. In between there's being a god or goddess. And that's the one humans keep forgetting. It's called being. It's called doing without doing. How can I connect more with my being yet still do things? In spirit, nothing is done. It is. Here, we only do. And I'm saying our eventuality, our destiny is to, before we ever get home all the way, to learn to do without doing. And that includes relationships. How is that done? Well, I can't do it if I don't have an idea of who I am, my being. Now that I get an idea of who I am, I found out I have value. Now I won't do relationships so that I'm not alone. I will practice being a person more of value. If no relationship can step up and center into and resonate with me and self-worth, then I won't do it. Oh, then I'll just go without. That's still a human who believes in fear and separation. You haven't practiced enough your value. We know that because you keep doing. Get centered into who you really are. Forget about the absolute divine yet. That'll happen. For now, how can I experience the divine here? What do you think it's going to look like in your day-to-day relationships? It's going to be clumsy at times, but it's still destined. You still have a light at the end of the tunnel that you walk towards. You still say, love and self-worth. See, if all I do is identify myself as single, lonely, Do you understand that's a creative consciousness you're going to come from? And then you're going to get things related to that. Why is it? Why is it that most women, men too, but why most women that have been abused as children, why is it that the odds of their children being abused becomes greater? That's not a great statistic. Why is that? Because humans get into a role, a certain routine, vibrationally, they pass things down genetically, they pass things down karmically. And these things just then perpetuate themselves. Somebody's got to break the cycle. Somebody's got to say, I'm going to be the one in the family that's not an addict. Even if I am one, I'm going to stop. Someone's got to be the one, I'm going to be the one that doesn't do gratuitous marriages. I'm going to be the one that says, here's who I am. Instead of, well, my parents want me to just be straight. Or their religion, or their culture. Just stop. What about me? Because if you're a loving person, you should not be raising a child to do everything the way you do it. I did this, I'm a whatever, carpenter, you must be a carpenter. I'm a this, you must be that. That's not how we should raise kids. You have children, you have astrological charts done for them, and you find out who they are, and start helping to steer them in that direction. What are they about? What are they about? We lost something. Once upon a time, when we were a little closer to being, some cultures, they would ask what's happening in the moment to name a child. Look at the indigenous people, Native Americans. They would name based on the synchronicity of the moment. There must be something relative. The child now is born. What's happening in the ethers? There must be a synchronicity to that. It makes sense? And what we started doing, well, my father was Jim, and now you're going to be Jim because I was Jim. And then you'll name your kid Jim. Make sure you have boys, because girls named Jim, it might not work well, So there's all this strange tunnel, everything one direction. What happened? People forgot how to be connected with God and with themselves. So they went out in a world trying to do something to compensate for that missing of being. So if I name my kids after my father and of myself and lineage and all that, they'll be proud of me. Great. So you're now accomplishing pride from them who are in the past instead of something sacred in the moment. Something's got to change. How can I do things differently? How can we learn to just be a bit more on this planet? Being. Then some people that teach being, they take it to an extreme. And you can barely even hear them when they talk because they'll say, I am just being. What are you, Kwai Chang Kang? Listen, speak up. I can't hear you. They have to whisper to show how much they're being. I'm a spiritual teacher. Just be in the moment, people. Just be in the moment. Let me tell you something. What they're doing after they receive money for the books they write, they be at the bank cashing your checks. So this whole fake being, it's all exaggerated. Be connected as much as you can to God and your real self. But then let doing happen, but not a separate doing. Doing, you can laugh, honey, it's all right.
I'm still at the bank.
Yeah. You see? So it's like, wow, doing from a being place. How? Ask. I mean, honestly, kind of like, what would Jesus have me do, as some people say? What is the most loving thing in this moment? If I practice that, I'm going to now be doing more from a being, because being is love. So when I center in and say, what would you have me do? Including, is this the right person to date? Rather than loneliness tells me yes. You shouldn't be asking from loneliness. No, you want loneliness to be your guide? That can't go well. That's like saying, should I have another drink? Let me ask the last drink. Yeah, the last drink says it's going to be lonely if I don't have another one. Why would you ask an addiction for advice? It's never going to say, you should starve us. Bless you. So instead, there's a quiet space inside of my heart. Not always easy to hear that quiet space. Someone hands you divorce papers. You're not like, centered and angelic choirs heard. You're in pain. So, I'm not saying you should pretend you're not. But you can say, God is the strength with which I decide next what to do. God is my source of what to do. God be with me. Go ahead and own. I'm scared. I'm actually quite angry. This is, oh my God, bringing up betrayal. It's okay. Own that that's what's happening. What are you going to do with it, though? Let it now determine your day. That would be what most people do. Or bring it to the altar and say, God, man, here's what I'm feeling. Not really great. I got some expletives that I probably don't need to write down on that paper, you know, those divorce papers, because you probably know how I'm feeling. Go ahead, get it all out. But I am committed to feeling something else, somehow to feel your presence despite this situation. And that's where a miracle descends into our consciousness. If I'm not used to spotting a miracle, I may not see it. A miracle could come in the form of a voice saying it's going to be okay. You know what? I don't think it's going to be okay. Do you think I'm going to be able to hear a voice saying it's going to be okay when I don't believe that? I'm going to be sort of blocking it out. Miracles are never absent. They're only blocked from our consciousness. And it isn't by God. It's by ourselves. The Bible tells us Jesus was crucified, and at that moment, when the people even had to vote to crucify him, God put blinders upon the people so they could not see what they were doing to Jesus. No, he didn't. It's just how they felt. That was man writing it, saying, it wasn't my fault. God put blinders on me so I would vote for Jesus to be crucified. God didn't like, oh, listen, folks, I know it's not the right thing to do, but blindness upon everybody, and everybody just did evil after that. That's mankind projecting, but we do this in our relationships. When you find somebody and they betray you, they abandon you, parents, grandparents, all the people in our lives that can hurt us. It's not nice that they're doing it. It's not appropriate. Some of the things they do are not legal. We get that. However, they're not in our lives by accident. Somehow our soul has determined that there's a relevance to the lessons, whether it's betrayal, abandon, or whatever. And I know that sounds really crazy considering some of the really crazy things people do. But still, somehow my soul's saying that happened and it was somehow relevant. I don't have to know how it was relevant. All that I need to know is, do I want something else? Do I want to grow up like them? Do I want to be like them? Do I want to act like them? Do I want to parent like them and make different choices? When you do, you're breaking a karmic cycle that's been going on forever. Somebody's got to be able to break this, and all too often people don't. And if you look at quantum physics to all of this, people don't realize, like A Course in Miracles is saying, that you never really are using your consciousness. The only time you can really use your consciousness, because there's only God consciousness in reality, is the only time you can use the real one is when you're using God consciousness, which is love. When you're not coming from love, you're actually not doing anything but fabricating more of a fearful universe. Now in quantum physics, it can say it the same way. Well, there are these quantum waves and particles. And those waves and particles are kind of just sitting around on in neutral, on pause, until someone shows up and uses them. Now, in this universe, it could use it for, it says in the Bible, the sun shines upon the good and the wicked equally. So this quantum universe, in one respect, it's going to respond to anybody who shows up with powerful, focused mind. But some people will tell you that means that's always good, that you show up with a focused mind. And Hitler had a focused mind. He really did. And he accomplished quite a bit. Good for you. No. Because when you're coming with a focused mind and getting the universe to give you power, if you're not coming from love, it's still an unreal power. It's still part of this world. So you can use I want to create a relationship. It doesn't mean you're coming from a healthy place. People will say, I got it. I learned this thing about how the mind works. So now I'm going to powerfully create a partner. You're still coming from, all you did was go from desperately not knowing how to manifest someone to desperately knowing how to manifest someone. There's the next level, which is not so desperate. Connected. And it's just amazing because you just realize, coming from a healthy place, everything's okay. When I was a kid in high school, I played soccer. And I was the only varsity player, maybe in history, that didn't want to be on varsity. And they always found ways to force me out there and be in varsity. And I was like, I want to be in junior varsity. And the coach, he was a biker. and he had his teeth, and his lower jaw was out here, and he had this beard. He looked like he was from ZZ Top. So he'd go, Michael, get your butt out on the field. Coach, I don't want to play, man. Let me play in the junior varsity game. What are you talking about? Nobody wants to play junior varsity. Get out there. You know? So it didn't make sense to him. Why? Why? Because the junior varsity team, they were all stoners. And they didn't care about winning. And I didn't want to have to win. I wanted to play. Just wanted to hang out and play. There was such seriousness going into the varsity game. You have to win. You have to. And then you have to go to the championships. And like, chill, people. When you know who you are, it's kind of nice. It's like that junior varsity thing to me. When you know who you are, you get to just relax. You don't have to win. You realize playing is fun. You realize who you date. You can just come with a more full awareness of who you are. You have to encourage honesty in terms of your agreements with each other. I mean, there are people that I've walked with this through and talked this through, couples, and here's what we're going to do. We agree. One of them's going to go off to Peace Corps in a year, but we're going to date until then. You agree, though, that you're going to date until then, and you agree. Are you monogamous or not monogamous? Whatever your agreements are, fine. Now, but you do understand in 1 year it's supposed to end. Yes, we totally get that. One of them comes back for a session a year and 1 day later, devastated that the other left. And it's okay to be devastated, but you did know. I don't mind you're devastated, but you're going to want me to join you in hating them for leaving? That doesn't make sense. Keep your agreements. Take care of each other. Make as clear agreements as you can. What is this about? Is this about intimate friendship? Is this about sworn monogamy? Whatever it is, then try to stick to those agreements once you make them. There are people that stick to, we're not wanting any children, then somebody gets pregnant, and now there's a fight about it. If you had an agreement not to, you might want to stick to that until you change the agreement. I know it's not easy to navigate human relationships, but somebody's got to bring more sanity in it, because if you do, you're creating a safe vessel. People are afraid of intimate partnerships and even sworn friendships. People are afraid of each other. I've seen my parents do this, or I've seen my brother do that, or we've seen enough of this. So even if you act like or think you're not afraid of friendship, partnership, relations, romance, everybody's got a little bit of a history with that, even past life. So the main thing to bring us closer, there's 2 things to help bring us closer. A better relationship with God and with yourself. But when it comes to the relationship with others, it helps if I have a good relationship with God first, a good one with myself second, which means I know me, I know what works for me and doesn't work for me. And then when it comes to others, communication, agreements, clarity. My relationship with others is made safe. If it's not safe, guys, you're not going to be able to do it. It's a lie. So you're really saying, listen, I'm going to work on the one with God and myself, but when it comes to you, would you agree to help me to create a safe vessel called a relationship? Oh, I would love to. Great. Then we're going to communicate. What do we agree is going to work for us and not work for us? Where are you coming from? Are you looking for a life mate? Because I don't feel like that's me. Or I'm looking for one and it's not you. Let's find these things out. Somebody says, I want a life mate. The other says, no, not for me. But let's go ahead and pretend that that's okay. Because at least I'll have someone in my life. Not good. Get it over with. Get everything out while you can. What are you looking for? The honesty creates a safe vessel. And with a safe vessel, thank God, now I can step into that. And human beings are still going to trip up on each other because it's this human nature. I want my relationships at work to be healthy and real and communicative and all that. Intimate in the sense that we're both real with each other. Intimacy. Here's who I am. Does this work for you? Tell me about yourself so we can decide intelligently what's going to work in this relationship. What are you looking for? What are you about? Where have you been? Tell me about it. I really want to know who you are. I want to know what's going on. How are you doing? And some people are afraid to expose who they really are, and others will manipulate who they really are because they're coming from a desperate place. But if you're a healthy person, you're going to know how to pace your relationships. You're going to know how to give yourself time to get to know people at a full, expansive level. And some people say, oh, I tried that, man. That's really bad news. That doesn't sound really good. So I would just say spend some more time healing. There's a pyramid of relationship. Remember that. Down here at the bottom rung is everybody meeting each other like acquaintances. But most people meet and try to go to the top of the pyramid and marry next. Hi, nice to meet you. Are you my one and only? What happened to, what's your name? You know, let's go, can we fill in the conversations a little? Who are you? Where have you been? What are you about? Oh, I don't like to talk about the past. That wouldn't be someone I would want a relationship with. No offense. See, I want to know everything. Full disclosure. If you feel like, no way, I'm not going to do that, I would recommend some more relationship with you then. Healing, taking some time to heal. Never bring to any of us that want to be healthy, never bring half a person. Never bring half an awareness, half of a commitment to God, half of a disclosure, half of a healed person. Be committed to everything good and healthy. Be able to say to somebody, look, you know, I'm not claiming to be perfect, but I can tell you this, and this creates safety. I can tell you this, if anything goes wrong in this relationship, I can't promise you I won't ever be upset, but I'm going to promise you this, I will do my best to go here first. Oh, that's immediately better. I mean, that immediately, as soon as you say that, oh, okay. So it's not going to be one of those, when does the other shoe drop? And here comes the attacks. I can trust you're going to go there first. And you know what? Thanks for saying that, because that reminds me I'm going to go there first too. Let's have that commitment. If I ever go nuts a little bit and get too funky on you, you can say, can we take a moment to each look at this for a minute? That would be a fair way to say, let's take a minute. And that's okay. Is that making sense? A healthy relationship with God, self, and others. And being able to bring the God self to others, but with others comes a commitment to healthy communication. Now, one last point for today in this context. You know, people assume, because I've written books on intimacy, written books on relationships, partnerships, and all this good stuff, and I'm into spirituality, that sounds like a person can only have great relationships. That's true. And I do believe I've had great relationships. Thank God. But it works. It's because of the work I do that makes them good relations. Does it mean they don't end? Not at all. Have I never been heartbroken? No, I didn't really appreciate getting divorced the first time. You know, my marriage. I didn't dig that at all. It was heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. It was mind-boggling. Didn't expect it, didn't want that. It was nowhere in the radar for me that I wanted to do something like that. So it was very painful. But the pain wasn't even as much it happening as that I didn't want it to happen. It happening helped me see why I didn't want such a thing to happen. Failure, family, children. It was everything except honesty here. So it really helped me sit and go, wow, I actually got it. I actually, in one painful moment, it just all came to me. I actually got it. And it wasn't stellar, perfect all the time after that, but it was mostly repaired after that. And the word had to do with responsibility. I got married when I was a kid, and I wanted and needed certain things. And that doesn't happen. People go to relationships not realizing they're usually there to hide. They're usually there to kind of mask things over, because that's what we think is going to happen. You know, things were kind of messed up in my house, and now I'm married. It's not going to ever happen here. Next thing you know, there it is. So it's like a rude awakening. But when you see it, it does become a little more laughter than tears after that. So it becomes these awkward kinds of things in life. But I honestly can say that you learn to assemble your relationships because they become who you are. Take this that you liked, and this you liked, and this you liked into you, and become the relationship, the greatest hits of your relationships. What about the negative ones, Michael? Same thing. I'm going to still bring what I learned from that negative one here. It can still become a building block for me. Let's say I had a relationship that wouldn't communicate. I don't go, okay, I'm going to accept bad communication. No, I'm just now clear that I am into communication. See how I made that into something good for me? I'm clear that's what I want. I could meet somebody and it doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter if it was a perfect astrological alignment and the thing astrology said, you're going to meet somebody who look like this today. It doesn't matter how perfect it sets up. You don't want to communicate? I'm done. Or you want to do this and that, I'm done. There's certain things that work for me and certain things that don't. And I'm saying for me, I'm not saying this is the relationship you must have, other than healthiness. I'm saying spot the positives, the healthy things, and bring them to yourself and create relationships that resonate with that. And if you don't, that would have been you that didn't do that, right? Do you see what I just said? If you're going to step into looking for a great healthy relationship, you better know what you are in terms of relationship. What are you about? I don't know. There you go. Pretty much anybody will do now. You might want to get a closer fix on what you're about. So sit with your friends today and say, and just for the heck of it, someone you know you can challenge a little bit like this. Even when we sit at the cafe for lunch today, go ahead and say, okay, so let's all ask each other. Just in short, like a 1-minute answer. What would you be looking for now in relationship? What are you about? Even if you're in one. Well, for me, don't say Michael said, here, you. Well, I definitely want clear communication. I would like there to be monogamy, if that's something you want to see. I would like there to be trust. Oh, I love trust. Then throw that in there. But everything you're going to want, instead of what would you like to see in someone, I'm asking you to say, what would you like to be? If you can say, I want to be that, and start choosing to be that, that is going to be more what you're going to start to create. And in my friendships, and intimate friendships too, I'm very grateful. Even though some, they don't last forever, some last 10 years or 5 years or whatever, I'm still grateful that I was able to say, here's what I'm about, step into it. People were able to say, we would like to meet you there. Meet me in that space of trust, love, honesty, whatever it happens to be, hard work even, because, we do the work that I do in teaching. There's all that kind of blend of all that great stuff. Then there's still those moments where something doesn't work, or somebody, runs off to have a child and it can't work anymore. Whatever it happens to be, changes happen. I'm able to instead say, oh my God, I thought we had built perfect forever relationships. Instead, what good, what positive? And we're all going to be tempted to think we failed if something comes to an end on planet Earth. Beware that, which means be aware. Beware that temptation. And say instead, have you assembled a healthier life? Yes. Can you continue to maintain that life? Yes. Will you continue to also insist that other people meeting you in that relationship or in a form of relationship meet you somewhat at that level? And you also have to integrate what they're looking for. Can you do that? And that's all you can, that's the best you can do on planet Earth. Take care of things logistically and heartfeltly in your life, but also don't forget the spiritual component. When you meet someone, God is always saying, I am affirming that you can have a chance here for a holy relationship. You're going to like them, you're going to not like them, and in heaven, we don't care either way. Because either one can be brought to holiness. How? By simply saying, hey God, guess what? I'm starting a new relationship today. It's kind of funny because I think this one looks pretty promising. But I know it's only a matter of time that we start getting triggered by each other. So I'm going to just ask in advance for you to help us create a holy relationship out of this one. Don't think you only turn them over when they go bad, hurtfully. Surrender every relationship. I don't have to surrender my dog because I love my dog and my dog loves me. We don't need any healing. Yes, you do. Because if it dies, you're going to be sad. Surrender even the dog to God. This is another thing that I'm giving to you, God. Show me how to love it more unconditionally. How do I know I love it conditionally? Because if it were to die, I'd be sad. You're allowed to be sad, but devastated. Nothing should devastate you because nothing can devastate you. You're God. So how can I learn to love this animal the way God did? God doesn't look upon the earth and ever see an animal fail to live all of a sudden and then be devastated. We would have a majorly bipolar God in charge of everything. I'm up, I'm down, like a stock market God, except based on life and death. It doesn't work that way. I don't know where I get these ideas. But so in closing, I learned early on, assemble healthiness. Don't go get it from people. Become it. How do you become it? Assemble it is one practical terminology. Assemble healthiness. So after divorce, around 1990, I spent several years kind of not really doing anything, but I did try out relationships eventually. And I've never actually been on a date in my life. Never actually been on a date. Even in high school, there's no such thing. Like, I never went on a date, never picked somebody up, took them somewhere. I would meet somebody somewhere, but I didn't, my life and my brain wasn't going to work that way to actually go on a date. To go on a date would have meant maybe I would pick them up in a car. What car? Well, I could have my parents' car. Never could predict what mood they were going to be in. So if they saw that I looked happy because I was going to use the car to go out on a date, they would make sure, pull the car to make me unhappy. So it was not so good for me to be able to feel confident to go on dates officially. So never did that. And then even all these years later, I never did an actual date kind of a thing. But I never felt like I needed to. I never had a desire to do something like that. If I met somebody and it was convenient, then we're talking and we can have a relationship of some kind. But never, dated originally. But here's what's kind of weird. Or as though that wasn't. A few years after divorce, I was like, well, so maybe I'm going to, try this out and see somebody or something. I don't know how, I don't know where, it's kind of foreign. So I tried out a few things. And there were a couple of friends I had, and they said, well, here's what you can do. Go to a singles dance. I'm like, that sounds like a no-brainer. Everybody's single. So you can dance with people and just kind of have fun. So I'm going to go to a singles dance. And by the way, when I actually met the woman I married, again, we didn't date, but the only time when we first got together and decided to go out, it was my friends in one car pulling up to get a couple of people, her and her friend, into the car. So we're all kind of going together. I got out of the car because there was no more room and got in the trunk. Yeah, this is Michael. And she actually turned to her friend and said, that's the guy you want to introduce me to? Swear to God. Swear to God. And that's the person I married, But our first supposed date, I'm in the trunk. So that wasn't the weirdest thing that ever happened either. But so a few years after divorce, I'm like, well, so, okay, there's no trunks to get in anymore. So I got to actually come out and be, So I go to this place where there's music and dance. We're going to go a singles club. Now, I thought, okay, this is a no-brainer. This is those things people talk about, singles. Here I am like in my early 30s and we're going to try this out. I get there and I'm kind of like, there's some weird vibe in the room. And it's just something's odd, not bad, just something's off, something's different. So I went, okay. So I'm looking at, do you ask somebody to dance? How's this kind of like done, I'm looking around and then I started going, there's something, this is a gay singles. This was a gay singles dance. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, fine. I told him, this person, just don't ask me to go hanging out with you anymore. You got to know where we're going before you ask me to go somewhere. A couple weeks later, another singles dance. I'm like, no, seriously. This is a singles dance for everybody. Okay, fine. So I get there before them, about 10 minutes before them. And I'm, looking inside and I'm like, wow, and a woman comes up to me and says, so are you coming into the dance? I said, I kind of thought this was weird. I go, well, in a little bit. She goes inside and I'm waiting and then I caught on. My friend shows up. Hey man, you going in? I go, yeah, I was waiting for you. You ready to go in? I go, yeah, but look around first. It's a seniors singles dance. I was 30 something, early 30s. This is a seniors singles dance. I could go on and on telling you, seriously. The next one I went to, I show up and the woman who came up to me, hi honey, you coming in to dance? That's what she asked. The one that the seniors dance, But the next one I went to, people kept asking me one particular question. And I thought, why is everybody asking me this? Because it was a Jewish singles. And they kept going, I didn't know you were Jewish. And I'm like, these are weird questions that people are asking me. I'm not Jewish. They're going, oh. And I'm thinking this is the luck I have. Now, in all of this, it's funny. It's kind of frustrating too at the time. It's like you think, well, I've tried, online dating or I had weird experiences. However, when we meet somebody or even don't meet somebody like this, why was all that happening? Do you know? God was saying no? No. Why was it happening? Why was every attempt blocked? That's something as simple as dating. God just doesn't want me to have a partnership. That's how some people think. It's not meant to be. My friends miscommunicated. They should have been more responsible to make sure it wasn't a senior singles Jewish kind of a dance, gay dance at that. All these things that weren't quite what we were looking for. What's happening is, guys, in your life, the people out here, the world out here is mirroring our own conflict. There was a part of me that didn't want to go out and meet somebody. There was a part of me that was still being faithful to my ex, honestly. There was a part of me that didn't know how to meet people when I have children to raise. I was a little conflicted about that. Do you follow what I'm saying? There's no good or bad. It was me. That's all. And it was even kind of funny because that's me. It's funny for me to be in a lobby of a hotel watching all these seniors walk in trying to hook me up and bring me in. I think that was pretty funny. It was a little frustrating because I was actually part of me wanting to meet somebody. But when you say, I want to be with somebody, Michael, I want to have a partner. Michael, I want to have a life mate. Remember the words, part of me wants ... Now what's the rest of the sentence? And part of me does not want ... How do we know which one's the strongest? Whichever one's happening. And I didn't even blame anybody else in that. Oh my goodness. I tried 5 different people online dating and it's not working. I'm sorry that it's not working and I'm sorry that you're hurting. I can hold you for a minute or we can talk about it. Fine. But do you see what's really happening? Part of you wants this and part of you doesn't. How do you know? Because the conflict outside is showing the conflict inside. I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just saying the world is a mirror. So that helped me look at it and realize it, and there's a pivotal moment. As soon as you realize this is true, the world is mirroring, it actually plants you into a place of power because you realize my not dating is actually partly my choice here. Really, it's all my choice, but I'll be nice and say, it's really partly up to my consciousness, guys. And it shifts everything for you. Then you realize, I'm responsible here, I'm in charge. And the closing comment would just be, and the pivotal moment I just shared with somebody recently, but when I did go out and try to listen to music at this place across the street from my office, and I did go over and listen to music, I dug that, listening to music, it was the first time I went. The next day, my ex talked to her, and she said, what'd you do last night? I said, I went to a nightclub. She's like, you? You're kidding. Like, I never go anywhere. Never a date, like I said. So it's not me. She goes, you went to a nightclub. Are you kidding? I said, no, I did. She goes, did you dance with anybody? I went, and this is me, the naive, nobody asked me. I was all like, nobody asked me. It hadn't occurred to me yet. I could ask, but nobody asked me. And she said, well, they will when you want them to. And when she said that, honest to God, something switched. And I went, oh. And in that moment, I knew I could go anywhere and meet someone if that's what I wanted. Which means any of us can do anything at any time. I know that part of you is feeling alone and wants to meet somebody, but I'm telling you there's another part that's not quite there yet. Why? Could be self-sabotage from romance. That's a sad thing. Better want to, maybe want to heal that. But it could also be a part of you saying, we're not there yet. I wouldn't hate myself for it, and I wouldn't beat myself up for it. I would just own that it's a possibility. Because when I am ready, just remember to hold the proverbial button in your hand. If you want to create a partner right now, or a new relationship, or whatever it is, you can push a button right now. We'll just call it the go button, and relationship's going to manifest within 24 hours. I'm only going to ask you, are you ready for what's going to show up when you push the button? Because it's going to be relative and related to your consciousness. Have you really healed enough of everything that you could say it won't show up in the person showing up? Well, I'm just going to hope it won't. No, that doesn't work. Have you done all your work? Now you're going to go, never mind. Put the button down, back away from the button. Do not push the partnership button. That's all you have to do. It doesn't mean you'll never push the button and create. It doesn't mean you don't have the right, the power to. It means, can you just be responsible enough to say, give me a minute. I'm going to look here a bit more. Have a relationship with God. Have a relationship with yourself. And when you do interact with others, make it honest, clear, communicative. Keep your agreements with each other as much as possible. But when you slip and don't, apologize and take responsibility. Oops. I know I said I would like to commit for a year. And it's only been 6 months, but I feel like it's done. Whatever the decision, if it changes, just be honest and responsible for it. You know what we sometimes do? We find things we don't like about other people to have a reason to dump them so that we're clearer in our conscience. You're just trying to avoid responsibility. You change the rules, that's all. I decided it's not working for me. And then just be honest about that. You know, you can say, I'm sorry, how can I make amends? But be honest about it. Because you're going to save everybody a lot of time and grief. Everybody step up and create a more sacred relationship. Even my relationship with you, try to be as transparent and as clear and honest as possible. I told you folks from the first day I showed up, this is what I'm into and what I'm not into. Here's what I'm open to, what I'm not. We're going to teach at a certain level. We're not going to sit around and keep everything the same. We're going to create a labyrinth and do some cool things. You guys open it. I mean, is that what you want to do? If that's what you want to do, then we're going to do it. If that's what the majority votes, then that's what we're going to do. And we stuck to that agreement. And at any time, if somebody wants to change their relationship and say, we now no longer want a service that goes, too deep into stuff, let's just do really kind of simpler stuff, then that's what I would do, or I would leave. But I wouldn't do what I say I'm not going to do, or vice versa, and do it begrudgingly. Just honest and clear. That's why I check in with you guys once in a while. Hey, are you guys okay with what we've been doing? Do you want me to keep things a little simpler? You say no. Find out what you're going into so you can be responsible for when it shows up. Agreed? Okay. Please take a few centering breaths. Setting aside all the stuff of the world, all the stuff of life, as always. With each exhale, just imagining tensions, thoughts, and such just falling away. And it doesn't matter where we are in our past, present, or future with relationships, especially partnerships, romantic relations, intimacy, and so on. We set all that aside for a moment. And we choose to go within ourselves, a nice quiet place in our hearts. Not a place of external design, wishing for something to be a certain way, but just in our own hearts for a second. Good. Now, as we center in and become aware of ourselves, we then start to imagine, if I could snap a finger and manifest the most perfect intimate partnership imaginable, even if I already have one, to imagine it even better somehow, what might that look like for you? It might be more happiness, less illness. It might be more smiles, more laughter, a greater ease, openness, trust. intimacy, and so on. Just imagine what that would look like. And then for a moment, allow this to be spontaneous. For a moment, let's ask that Divine Mother, our guide, the Holy Spirit, to help us see, honestly, anything in our lives that we've seen anywhere, movie, partnerships, parenting, anywhere we've ever seen something to the contrary. What is it that we've ever seen, experienced, that taught us the opposite of that thing we would like to experience in our lives? The ideal image. Where did we learn to be shying away from the honesty or the truth? Where did we learn to be a little apprehensive or pulling away, distanced? Be honest and look through your life. All the many stories, patterns, addictions, abuses that brought us to be something other than we'd like to see ideally in our lives. And we would like to take a moment to heal those memories and those experiences. But before we do, take just a moment and ask yourself this. Just hypothetically, if there were any way possible that the previous negative experiences, if there were any way possible that it was convenient for you, that it represented something in you, take a moment to see what that was. How might it have represented you, your apprehension, your inhibitedness, your own fears? Take a look. Just be honest about it. Like I described, these weird experiences in my life were mirroring my own apprehension. There was nobody to blame. I recognize very easily my inhibitedness around, wanting to be faithful to my ex, or a little inhibited because I had children. Just, it's me. I can see that. Can you see any role your inside might have been playing in having anyone or thing outside create a block to your greater relationship? If you see any amount of that, then hear these words like they're coming from your own soul. First of all, I recognize that there's any amount of inhibition at all in my relationship, partnership, even my friendships. I'm not minimizing that or denying it. I get it. There's some block. Even to my finances, there's some blocks, fine. But I accept that it's deeper than that. It's not just blocked by fate. It's not an accident. It's not God's will. No. It's about the past and unhealed wounds. And even the past and unhealed wounds somehow symbolized my own beliefs, my own stuff, my own inhibitions, my lack of self-worth, tendency towards self-sabotage, whatever it happens to be. No matter what you're hearing today, it's somehow relevant to you. You're needing to hear this, so do your best to soak it in. And I get all that, and I'm choosing to give this all to you, Father, Mother, God. I'm choosing to give you every inhibition to trust that I may have. That doesn't mean I just jump into the world and cause myself to get hurt. I let go of every fear and inhibition rooted in my past, and they're all rooted in my past. It doesn't mean I'm lending myself towards harm, because you'll guide me, Father, Mother, God. As I surrender to you, I'm guided where to go, what to do, what to say, what to not do, what not to say. I can live in this, growing in my consciousness every day, growing and growing. You show me. I'm giving all this to you. All of the memories and the people that added up into a wall to keep me distanced from people. Not today. I allow the wall to effortlessly dissolve, and I step beyond it into a world where there's billions of souls, a countless number of soul sparks of God. And I see them all. I see them all in the sky. I see them all through the sky. Every star is a person, a soul, with no history, no wounding, no inhibitions. I love you all. I love you. I get it. I love you all. My love for you is so great, I start to shine brightly as a star in this dark space called the universe. I shine so brightly, there's no darkness that remains. The entire universe, my light, shines into your light and ignites every star into being even a greater star, till the stars all feel so good they sing in harmony with one another. Oneness, one universal song, one song. And we burn so brightly that everything turns to light. And imagine an infinite amount of light. An infinite amount of light. And then, where is that infinite perfect light? Picture it in the center of your mind. And let it shine more brightly all through your body, very slowly, through every cell, every organ, every gland, every system, and become that light even while on earth. Beautiful. Be that light. Now, when you go to your partner, if you have one, do your best to be this light and communicate like you're this light. If you don't have a partner, picture yourself shining so brightly that it attracts other bright stars, other healthy people. People that aren't so healthy, just shine your light. You don't have to marry them. Just shine your light. Just be that presence for them. Don't evaluate, don't judge that they're this or that. Just shine brightly. But people that feel like they resonate to that brightness, and rather than getting repelled by it, dance with them. Dance with them. Be with them. Be friends with them. Be part of a board with them. Be part of a committee with them. Be a part of a friendship group, a hiking group, a study group. Light attracting light. Goodness attracting goodness. Gradually come back to the room, slowly and gradually. And as you're integrating into your body, have an attitude of, I can do this. I am so complete. I look forward to meeting other complete people. It feels so good to be in this realness. I have nothing to go to do, nothing to have to seek. And stretch out when you're ready.